It's almost like if I stand in public and say that according to my belief, according to my Bible, according to my God, sexual immorals are homosexuals, liars, thieves, whoremongers, whatever the list it goes on, these are going to burn in hell. There will be a thief there saying, oh, I feel triggered. Why am I going to burn in hell? It's my right to be a thief. You see what I mean? We are living in that world now. Anyway, so we shall move on to our conversation for today. A lot of things are happening in the world, to be fair with you, and particularly in the land that we're in at the moment, which is the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Although a lot of people argue with that title at the moment, say that what is so great about it? We're not united anymore. Are we even a kingdom anymore? There's just so much going on. Maybe they would want it to go the United Immigration of the immigrants. But yeah, so I came across something interesting, and like what you always saying, that these are springboards to bigger conversations. And this was a United rally, right? A Christian campaign, basically, hosted in London by a pastor of a church called Walking Life Jesus Ministries. Okay, a little bit about him. He said that he started his ministry back in 2013 after he attended a ministerial college. You know how these people go, things like that. Now, I did catch a bit of it, and what he did, it wasn't just his ministry basically that held this. He got other ministers from other Christian denominations. I think there were like 7 of them in total. And his message was, this is not a political thing. This is not a denomination thing. Right now, God is doing something. This is the call to basically Britain to Jesus, and it instantly made me think about all sorts of things, including the story of Nineveh, because that was a call to the whole nation. And we know how that went, because obviously, although Jonah had his own issues and things like that, the Bible shows us that when the word went through the land of Nineveh, even the king on the throne, all of them, they fasted, I think, was it for 40 days or something like that? And they actually repented, and the wrath that was coming towards them, God relented from it, So now I'm thinking to myself, the UK is facing a lot of things, like I said, right? When we look at the political side of it, we know there's sort of like this whole immigration thing. And then when we look at the Muslims, there's also gang things and things like that. And obviously the world at the moment, it's like at a standoff about to go into war. We were talking not so long ago about Nigerians being persecuted, Christians. We spoke about Tommy Robinson's sort of like people now turning to Jesus or marching behind the flag. So there's a lot going on, and obviously Tommy managed to hold one of the biggest sort of like rallies seen in the world with 150,000 people plus flood in London.
Well, they're not saying like 2 million or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but flood in London in protest. So there's also this thing now where people are starting to say that they want UK to go back to a Christian country, right? So we've spoken about this quite a lot to say that it's no wonder why Christian the country is where it is, because we've forsaken that was gonna work. We forsook the Christian traditions that we had. That was gonna work. Yeah. So, we've forsaken what they believe made part of Britain, what Britain was, right? And now it's almost like we don't know where people are standing now. However, I think the stats are showing that at the moment, still about 40% of Brits identify as Christians, right? And it's just that the majority of it are either atheist or other religions. So obviously it's still a lower percentage, just not at the bottom like we thought. But the reality that people are living, we might as well be a multicultural, which we are, but they might as well not be Christendom. Does that make sense? So I'm now thinking on 2 fronts. One, with what's happening, is God moving? Because we got to remember that we're also living in the end time events. Now, the time frame, we don't know, right? So I'm thinking, do you think God is moving? I think I've asked you this before because it's quite interesting. If you're viewing something from a bird's eye, it's different from viewing it whilst you're on the ground level, right? Imagine a group of people and they've lined up to make an SOS sign. What you're going to be seeing is just people around you. What are we doing here? If you're in a helicopter, you're going to see people have lined up in an SOS sign, the S or save us all, save us, whatever, right? And obviously from the ground up, it's going to be much more breathtaking. It's like, wow. It's like when you see a city from above. Yeah. London is actually it is a beautiful city from above. When you're walking in the streets, you may not feel it, what's going on here. But when you look at the infrastructure and the buildings, it is still amongst the best cities in the world. I would argue. That makes sense. However, when you are on the ground, you don't have that picture in mind. So I'm thinking, because right now we're experiencing it, but if we were to pause for a second and think, what could God be doing here? Let's think prophetic a little bit. Let's think big picture a little bit, Does God have a plan? It's an unfair question, but do you think God has got a plan for England? So that's the first front. And the second front is always when you bring it home, with things like the rally that took place, with things like, with this guy, it says that he holds these things yearly, basically. They're a yearly thing for him, just a call of repentance, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think he was also saying that this is a call for repentance, getting people to pray. He was praying, quite a spiritual gathering, Is this something that we as a Christendom should be supporting as well, should be gravitating towards? Because you've spoken about, for example, doing our part, Should we be at these things, do you think, especially facing what is happening in today's lives in the UK? Should we start being at these places to mark our place in history? Should God not be coming for the next 55 years? Someone is going to be reading a book about people that gathered in London, and I want to be part of that if that's what we're meant to do. I'll give you just one last thing before you jump in. I think I would make a good speaker, right? In fact, if I had grown up in the church, I no doubt I think I would have been a preacher, maybe a very powerful one as well. When I'm into it, I can do that deep voice, the Spirit is here today. So when this guy was speaking, me, I'm a big fan of emotions and goosebumps and epic moments, I sort of like turned my ears on a little bit to listen a bit more. And I'm not gonna lie, I was low-key moved, because of what I was listening carefully to the message he was saying. I was low-key moved, and I did have a thought myself that, but why is this not me? Or this could have been me, or should this be me? Should we be there as Christians?
I mean, you've I don't know where to start with that, but I think the last point is probably quite interesting, because why were you questioning yourself to say, should this be me, or why is this not me?
Because I like commanding groups for people, and that would have been nice to be like, let's pray, everybody.
And that's what I was going to say.
Intentions.
Is it just purely because of the, for lack of a better word, showy nature or the thing?
Absolutely.
Well, then that's probably why it's not you, because you have too much pride. It's as simple as that. Yeah,
now you've had a go at me. Now let's talk serious.
No.
Guys, not serious.
The reason why I found that interesting, because I think that is that is interesting for me, because I think sometimes we as Christians we miss the pull of God because we're too comfortable in our comfort zone. So if someone is living let's say we live in a comfortable life or whatever, and let's say whether they're watching something or they come across people or whatever, and for them they keep asking themselves the question, you know what, I see these ministers who give up their lives and go to Africa or whatever, and they help with people, and they set up churches. That'd be nice, that'd be nice. And my question is always, so do it.
No, because your life is not set up in a way that you can just do that.
It can be if you want to, but this is the point.
If I came to you and told you, Chin, I'm going to Tanzania to go volunteer for a couple of months, do you have enough money to survive whilst you're there? What about here? What about you come back? What about work?
No,
but things have to fall in place. But before you can do such things.
Firstly,
I'm gonna come back and live with you. No, you're not.
Firstly, it will be different if it was like, oh, you know what? I've been feeling this pull upon my life, and I've spent time in prayer, I've fasted, I've done whatever, and you know what? I feel like this is the thing that God is calling me to do. Then that's different to, oh, you know what? I have a great idea. I'm gonna go traveling Australia for a year. Those are two completely different contexts. Those are two completely different contexts, and the response to those two will not be the same. So yeah, one of them will be okay. If this is a decision you're trying to take, have you thought it through? The other one would be. That's the question. Have you thought it? No. For me, you wouldn't be asking, have you thought it through? You'd be saying, you haven't thought it. No, to be fair, I only say that after I've asked a few questions. That's not my first thing. I'll ask a few questions, and from your answers, I'll be like, yeah, you haven't really thought this through. But the other one, and this is something that I've realized in recent years as well. The other one, it's a, you know what? It may not make sense. It probably the worst time you could be doing this, but you know what? Who am I to stand in the way of what God is calling you to do? So if that's what you feel like God is calling you to do, then go ahead. But the thing is, God usually calls us to sacrifice. So it's not going to be like, oh, you know what? I've got this great job in Australia, and you know, and I feel like that's where God is calling me. He could be. I'm not saying not, but I'm saying 9 times out of 10, He's usually calling us to sacrifice. And if someone is coming to me telling me I'm going to sacrifice the luxuries I have, the life I have, the comfort of this life that I have,
the wife that I have,
I mean, why you be sacrificed? You have to take her with you.
Should I say what?
That's a very clever way to get out of a marriage. And I can't divorce, but God has called me to Tanzania.
And before you know it, there's a Tanzanian wife.
But anyway, so that's why I jumped on that bit, you know, to say, why is it why you're feeling that pull? But to go back to your other two questions, do I think God is moving? I guess my first question is moving towards what?
I don't know, but you remember there was a time as well we were seeing that a university, again, going outside the UK in America somewhere, 10,000 students gathered and things like that. We saw that not once, but I think twice. You know?
Yeah, but that's not unusual. Don't get me wrong. I like seeing those things, because for me, I always like seeing that there are people who are still burning for Christ.
Who are still
exactly.
Myself.
So for me, I always like seeing that. And in fact, I was watching a YouTube video a couple of weeks back. Some guy went to a Christian university. There's a Christian university in America, and he had never been, so he wanted to go see what it was about. And he was recording his experience, and he was pleasantly surprised. People were kind there, people were, you know, and he was like, I was surprised to see a whole university campus with people who are burning for Christ. And like a midweek service would have like thousands of students at a midweek service. I love seeing stuff like that. But the thing is, that's always been the case throughout history. For as long as Christianity has existed, for as long as a people of God has existed, there's always been peaks and troughs. You know, there'll be a time where Christianity is a thing. Oh, we're now a nation of Christians. Time will pass by. Yeah, this Christian thing, yeah, we're not sure. But there's always going to be a bubbling on the surface. A revival is going to come, whether, you know, things like the Black Death or something is going to cause it to be like, guys, let's go back to our Christian roots. That's going to happen. So I'm not knocking anything. I'm just saying, just because we're seeing it, and obviously we have the videos and stuff, I don't know if I can then say, oh yeah, there must be something big coming. Because, well, would a revival of Christianity in the UK be great? Yes, it would be great. But then does that mean that Jesus is near? Yes, even at the door.
I don't know. Don't you think God is moving? You know,
God is always moving. No, but that's the thing. God is always moving, isn't it? God is always moving. God is always working. You know, He could be preparing the next generation for something that He wants to do. You know, those people were saying that Gen Z are turning towards religion and Christianity in droves, which is weird, because the last sort of like 20, 30 years, millennials and the people that came before we're moving away from that, you know, because it's like, oh no, there must be more, we don't rules or whatever. But it's almost like Gen Z are growing up in a world where it's like, okay, you can be anything, you can do anything.
Absolutely.
You live life without limits. And they're thinking, it's a bit empty. Like, isn't there more to life than this? And therefore they're looking for meaning. So yeah, they're gonna find meaning in religion, in Christianity. and then they're going to raise their children to be like that. And then maybe a few years down the line, when human and robots are walking the earth, they'll be like, this Christian thing, well, what are we talking about? I think it's going to be a cycle. And this is why that final stone has to come and smash the statue. So, because besides that, it will always be a cycle. Very
interesting. This is going to be a cycle. So I guess essentially to sort of like close off this first part is to ask, what's our part in the cycle? Because as you were talking, I think I found myself saying, well, going back to what you've said before, we'll let God do what God is doing. We need to worry about our part. There are some of us, not everybody is a leader, right? Not everybody, dare I say, has got the same strength of the Holy Spirit to be able to hear a charge from God. Some of us will take our charge from our fellow believers, right? Giving this podcast, for example, this is 2 years in now, and this was your brainchild. You said, yo, Nick, I've got this idea. I think we should give it a try. I had never dreamt of a Christian podcast before then. You see what I mean? So my point is that there might be Christians out there, and this is essentially where I was coming. If God is doing something in the UK, yeah, we can say worldwide, but let's focus in the UK for now, right? If we say that he's doing something, or if we are noticing that there's a move of the Holy Spirit or whatnot, I think it's normal for us to have to consider what our part in that is. And if it's not normal for you to consider, and you are waiting to hear because you are a follower by lack of better terms, then what's the message we are pushing out to Christians in terms of their role in what we're seeing to be a very, very big movement and turn towards Christianity? Because people are getting interested even now. 100%. People are going to churches now. We read last week that, even non-denominational churches are increasing. I can say there's a cry or a realization of need for spirituality. People are searching.
100%.
So
100%.
for those of us that are not brave enough to start a podcast and preach that way, if you want to call it, or spread the message that way, if you want to call it, but are local to when people march to London, should we be going to those things? Should we be finding ourselves there for solidarity, for unity? Should we be finding ourselves in places where people are being baptized in the river? Where do we stand with that?
I have no problem with any of that. Not the only caveat, but it's interesting though, because the rally that you're talking about in London, that looked like a gathering of believers for me.
Absolutely.
So yes. I think it's a great experience, especially for that camaraderie and being amongst fellow believers. Because also one other thing, slight detour, but on the same topic. One other thing that I've noticed with Christianity is that it's very segregated in terms of denominations, but also races, right? So for example, you have churches that are predominantly black, others that are predominantly white, and then you have like Filipino and Romanians, and that's fine. We usually gravitate to, like-minded groups. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But when you go to settings like that, I think it gets you out of your bubble a little bit. Because you're like, oh, you know what? They are white people that actually love God. They are black people that actually love God. They are Indians that love God. They are. So you actually see that Christ is for everybody. Because sometimes we have like blinders on. If you go to an evangelical white church, you almost start thinking, oh, Christians must be, white, premium, proper, middle class or whatever. And so, that's why I love about gatherings like this of believers. It gets you out of your bubble. So 100%. If you want to go and experience that, then by all means do so. And for me, to answer what your question is, our part is, I guess the first thing that came to mind was, let your light shine so that the nations may see.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, how that's going to materialize in your life, I don't know. I can't prescribe it for everybody that's listening, but it's going to be in some way. For some people, it's going to be in something as small as being the light in your family, because maybe you're the only believer in your family, and therefore they need to see the light of Christ in you. For some people, it could be much bigger, like you said. It could be a matter of a stage. You've been feeling a pull to go speak to people for 2 years. Why haven't you acted on it? Do it. So it could look differently, but I think we as Christians, Christ does say, when you light a lamp, do you put it under
Absolutely.
a bushel? No, you put it in a place so that it shines light. And if the light of the word has come in us, he doesn't expect us to be hidden. He expects us to shine our light before the nations so that they may see. And I think that's the biggest testimony that we as Christians have, is to shine our light. And unfortunately, that's going to come in so many different ways. Some will be pleasant, some won't be pleasant. But as long as our charge and our prayer should be, if we don't know, I think your question was, if I haven't got that pull, if I haven't got the calling upon my life, if you don't know, fine. Every morning, that should be your prayer. God, show me, help me to shine my light today, or take me somewhere to shine my light today. And yeah, after a day or two, nothing may happen. After a week or two, nothing may happen.
So as for this gathering,
keep praying.
Yes, Christians, we ought to find ourselves in those gatherings, or no?
Well, I say there's no issue with that. I wouldn't say you ought to, as if it's an obligation, but if you want to go to these gatherings to have a session of worship and praise with your fellow believers, by all means, go do so. That's no issue with them. If I was in London and I heard it was happening, I'll definitely pop by. Definitely pop by to go see what's going on.
Let me borrow the mic.
No. Let me borrow the mic. Oh, that's so bad. But no, right. It's good to see. It's good to see.
Let's swiftly move on to the next discussion of this week. Right now, we've had a conversation before regarding a student that found a certain term, I think, in a book that she deemed was a bit discriminatory, or whatever. And she had an issue with that. This one is particularly close to me, right?
Okay, interesting.
No, I think close is a bit too deep.
Listen,
because by the time I'm finished speaking, I bet your first thing is gonna be, so how is that close?
No, everyone speak your truth, as they say.
No, so the thing is that growing up, you look forward to going to uni, right? If you are academic, you look forward to going to uni if you're academic, because it's the first chance or the first time that you have to challenge academics, basically, to challenge writings, to challenge books, because it's about what you think, taking into account other sort of like writings and things like that. Yeah. So it's almost like a sort of like, because obviously from primary growing up, it's about answering questions as prescribed by the book.
Yes.
Yeah? If you answer outside the book, sorry, you got it wrong. There's no room for you to reason and say, no, but I think this shouldn't have been like that. Onwards, you can. You do that. Yeah, I mean, bright student, I guess, were able to do that, and they were getting away with it. Some of us, we had to give what the book wanted, otherwise it was wrong. Not that we could think outside the book anyway. We're not capable of that. So the reason I'm saying that this is quite close to me because when you go to uni and you're writing a piece of work, it's expected you are putting your thoughts, you are measuring your thoughts against other writings. So you are this one said this one said this one said but I think ABCD based on ABCD and technically you can never fail if you do these things properly. Does that make sense?
If you're doing them properly, yes.
I mean, I should know because I failed even though. But then again, guys, my uni student teacher rather didn't like me. He was one Zimbabwean man. I'll never forget his face and his name. I know his first name. It's the same as the guy in the Bible. I can mention his name. His first name, because I don't know his last name. Is David. I'll never forget him. David. He didn't like me. Our spirits did not align.
Exactly.
But anyway,
fine,
so there's an article about a student in Oklahoma who wrote her thoughts about gender diversity as per the way it's given in the Bible, according to her understanding. I'm being careful. So I don't know if you can pop it up. I'm getting Chin's disease, guys. You don't know this because this happens behind closed doors, but sometimes we have like 6 attempts to start in recording because he just keeps mixing his words up and saying this and saying that. But yeah, so I want to read, it's a psychology student, basically. I want to read what she wrote, right? She wrote, her name is Samantha Fonoki, who studies psychology, wrote that eradicating gender in society would be detrimental as it would put people further from God's original plan for humans. Right? Now, I have to say before I let me read the next part. Right? She believes, I'll skip that for now. I'll read the one after that, responding. She wrote this responding to an article which argued that accepting diverse gender expressions would improve students' confidence. Right? She wrote, society pushing the lie that there are multiple genders and everyone should be whatever they want to be is demonic and severely harms American youth. Now, clearly, she embodied Chin's spirit because that is very brave.
That's very brave, very brave.
To write that, to be honest with you. But well done to her for being that brave. Now, we know the world that we're living in. Okay, so we are now speaking about going back to the conversation we've had, which is freedom of expression, freedom to practice religion, and one of my favorite, freedom to preach about the writings of your religion. Because now it seems like we are moving to a world where that's gonna get sort of like policed now. You see, it's almost like if I stand in public and say that according to my belief, according to my Bible, according to my God, sexual immorals, homosexuals, liars, thieves, whoremongers, whatever the list it goes on, these are going to burn in hell. There will be a thief there saying, oh, I feel triggered. Why am I going to burn in hell? It's my right to be a thief. You see what I mean? We are living in that world now. Not even we're going there. We are living in that world now. You see? And I've always said this to you, right? It's my religion. So if it's not yours, why is that offending you to the point where you're saying that, I'm triggered, I'm whatever. It's not your religion, it's my religion. That should only matter if it's your religion. So if it's my religion and it's not yours, and I have freedom of speech and freedom to practice my religion, I should be able to say that, and you should be able to grade it fairly. So why did she receive a 0? Apparently she got a 0 out of 25. So the examiner or the marker said that the marker scored the essay 0 out of 25 and claimed the student did not use empirical evidence writing. To call an entire group of people demonic is highly offensive, especially minoritized population. So you see what's happening now? It's about that minority again. You see? But again, did she call them demonic, or did she say that? She
definitely did.
No. She said that, dude, no, that's not what she said. She said that society pushing the lie that there are multiple genders and everyone should be whatever they want to be is demonic. So pushing that agenda of saying that there's multiple genders and you can be whatever you want to be, that narrative is demonic. She didn't say any one particular person is demonic.
But that agenda is pushed by people. So she's calling those that are pushing the agenda demonic.
She's calling the narrative demonic.
No. It's you can't get into a semantic war and try to argue that point. If you're saying people pushing their agenda, if you're saying people pushing their agenda is demonic, you're calling anyone who's pushing that agenda, you're calling them demonic. And that's fine.
So we're calling them demonic. So
yeah,
what's the issue? So I don't know. I'm 100% fully behind this student, and that worries me even more so to the conversation that we've had before. And I know Piers Morgan is having the same conversations on his show. I know Americans are watching UK closely. Is it Tucker Carlson in one of the recent conversations he's had with Piers Morgan literally this past week? He also pulled up, the abortion things that were happening when women. There was a particular woman who was standing in front of an abortion clinic and having a silent prayer, and she got arrested because she was violating public something for standing outside the abortion clinic. On the other side, dressed nicely, not doing anything to disturb anybody, but having thoughts to herself, she was arrested. So the UK is a center of sort of like there's no free speech anymore in the UK, as it were. There was the comedian that was arrested as well at the airport for posting something on X like 5 months before, and then he got picked up by the police, 5 or 6 armed police. So it's a mockery. But obviously the worry for me or for this setting is that how long until laws are put in place or it's now heavy-handed, you can't preach this from your good book? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And so your concern is what? The crackdown on Christian speech?
Absolutely. For now, there's no Christian speech per se, but I'm seeing heading there. For now, it's just speech altogether. But articles like this, you know, I'm seeing that it's just a matter of time until it ends up in a situation where you can't preach from the Bible anymore. And if you can't preach from the Bible and you have to say things that make people happy, is that the gospel anymore?
No. So
is that preaching anymore?
I feel like there's a bit of false equivalence happening here because your conclusion in this article, I feel like you've made a leap. And I think maybe that's the leap that needs to be addressed.
Made a leap.
Because
I've springed.
No. So in discussing this girl, if the question is, should she have been marked as 0? Because in her being marked as 0, I'm guessing you're arguing that the marker or whatever is preventing her from speaking her truth.
Absolutely.
It's preventing her from presenting her case.
Basically said that you were wrong entirely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a bit different in an academic setting. And the way I see it is slightly different, right? Because if we're talking about the state or society imposing on my life and how I choose to worship my God and live my life, then I think that's where the dangers arise, right? For me, that's where the dangers are. And for me, that's where the fight should be. That's where I'll fight the hardest. But when it comes to us entering these worldly institutions and try to play their games, we're going to have to play by their rules. Because if someone is playing a game and you want to join the game, you don't come into the game and then make up your own rules.
That she should have said that she affirms to that and to the,
it's not hang on, no, it's not either or. If she wants to make the case against against, in this case is multiple genders, that's fine. But then she there's a bunch of other professionals who are published authors that she can use to quote to cite her argument against the multiple genders argument. She doesn't have to fall back on the Bible. Now, I'm not saying now.
Isn't that being a bit cowardly?
No.
Once that's her identity.
No. But this is what I'm saying. An academic is not a church. For them, they don't recognize the Bible as an authoritative source of information. That's just a fact, right? They may recognize it as a historical book, but as a religious book.
I wasn't saying that, though. The feedback is about her and how she wrote, basically. Let me read this other part as well. It said that this was a quote from the marker. I implore you to apply some more perspective and empathy in your work. The feedback went on to say.
So what are you trying to say with that?
I'm trying to say that this is if it was about, well, you have cited no credible evidence.
You're missing it. Hang on, you're missing it.
That would have made sense.
I'm not saying the marker was right. And props to the girl for doing what she did. But I'm saying there's a better way that she could have gone about it also.
Granted.
I'm not saying the marker was right in marking a 0, because obviously this is just snippets of her thing. I imagine she presented a whole argument. And I'm sure in her work, she probably cited other sources as well. And thing is, if the Bible was one source that she cited, then 100% the marker should have marked the work based on the work as a whole. If the Bible was the only source that she cited, then I can understand where the issue is coming from. However, having said that, I'm not letting the marker off the hook, because even from the comments, you can clearly see that the marker is biased. Because in the marker's eyes, multiple genders is a fact, is a thing that has to be preached, and anyone who thinks otherwise needs more education or reformment or whatever. So you can hear the bias in the comments. So it doesn't make the marker right, but it also doesn't make that what the students say, oh no, we're for the student. All I'm saying is, if we're going to enter these institutions and play their game, then we need to play by their rules, and we can bend the rules as much as possible, but we still have to play within the rules, because otherwise, I'm finding stop playing the game. Otherwise stop playing the game.
Contradictory to what you said about the nurse that refused to call the patient by their chosen pronouns, and then
how is it contradictory?
That conversation, you were against the nurse, if I remember correctly. No. You were for the nurse for standing up for our beliefs. So why are you not for this student for standing up for our beliefs in her piece of work?
I am for her, but I'm saying that again, based on the limited information we have, there could have been a better way of doing it. I am for her pushing against the narrative, but this is what I'm saying, that in her pushing against the narrative,
at that moment, it was the piece of writing that she was writing, so that was the way for her. I don't even think she thought it was going to be controversial.
I'll give you an example. Okay, fine.
I don't even think she thought it was going to be controversial. I thought
of course she knew. I'll give you an example. Of course we don't know. I'll give you an example, right? So society pushing the lie, right? If this is an academic writing already, that shows bias. In academic writing, you can't determine whether something is a lie or not, because what you're doing is presenting a case, laying down the evidence, and then reaching a conclusion. You let the reader
have said. What should
society pushing the narrative? So for example, that's what I'm saying. So already that society pushing the lie already. She was also being biased in the way she was writing things.
I think they were both true to their beliefs, but the issue with the marker is that he represents an institution that is supposed to accept all beliefs and be fair. She represents herself.
Hang on. Institution that's meant to accept all beliefs and be fair.
So there's a quote here. In a statement posted on social media, if you go at the bottom, in a statement posted on social media, university spokesperson said, OU remains firmly committed to fairness, respect, and protecting every student's right to express sincerely held religious beliefs.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Skeet says, Governor of Oklahoma called the situation deeply concerning and urged a review to ensure other students aren't unfairly penalized for their beliefs. So I think there's a group of people that are accepting that what the examiner did was wrong. Now, I agree, which you are saying
I've already
as well.
considered that.
Which you are saying as well. But I agree with what you've said about, okay, fine, she could have written that better. Fine, we can look at her academic writing skills, but that's what it is, because she's presenting her truth in her work, right? And expecting a fair mark on that, not because she's a Christian or whatever, but the arguments that she's made. Now, if the feedback had been, for example, this is not proper academic writing, fine, fair enough. But it seems to me that the one that should have been more sort of like logical, because they accept all sorts of pieces of work from all sorts of backgrounds, got all up in their feelings and then attacked the poor lady for feelings.
I'm not fighting that point. I've already acknowledged. I've acknowledged that. I've acknowledged the full bias on the marker, 100%. I'm not fighting that point, because you can hear it in their comments, or it screams out at you.
But so you're saying that it was a leap or it was a jump. But so the thing for me here was, unfortunately, this is the reality. We've spoken about this quite a lot as well on this channel, that usually the minority's voices screams the loudest, right? Now, we've seen it already with street preachers in the UK, when people are saying that, their talking is offensive to me because they've read a verse, basically, that they deem offensive, right? So that's the connection there. That's the connection, and that's the concern that I'm seeing in the near future. Mark my words, you heard it first on Offbeat POV by Pronic, that I'm seeing in the near future, we're going to start seeing issues with reciting certain verses from the Bible, preaching them either in the streets, posting them on socials, or even in churches, because the government of the world would have deemed them to be offensive or not right. Therefore, we don't care if they come from your holy book or whatever it is. We don't want you preaching them. Does that make sense? That's where we are going, and that's the concern. And it's things like this that for me show me a little glimpse of that kind of future.
Well, I mean, this goes back to time back when we're having one of the other discussions, which I was saying, what are we expecting? Like, isn't that the future that Christians are waiting for? So I mean, I get the concern, but then it's one thing spotting the trend and saying, this is where we're heading, but then, okay, isn't that the future we're waiting for? I mean, if we get to a point where literally the people of God are killed and the whole world is celebrating and exchanging gifts because of that, what kind of climate does that have to be? If we get to a point where those that cling to the word of God and say, no, we shall not accept the beast, are being killed and the whole world is okay with that, what kind of worldly climate would we have to exist in for that to be normal? And because I think sometimes there's a disconnect when people think about prophecy and real life, because it's going to be a gradual descent into a climate where certain things that we otherwise would have deemed as that's not acceptable. People are like, oh, well, yeah, do that. Because it's like, okay, I would liken it with just like our Muslim brothers and sisters, for example, right? You have enough, let's say, terrorist attacks in the name of Allah. The narrative around the Islam religion shifts. And all of a sudden, actions towards Muslim people that would otherwise be deemed as that's horrible behavior, all of a sudden people are accepting it. Why? Because there's been a shift in narrative, because people's perspective has started to change. And likewise, it's going to have to happen with the same with Christians. It's going to be in a point where it is okay to spit at a Christian. It is okay to rat out a Christian. So, the verse says, I don't know if it says mother, brother, but people will be ratting each other out. They'll be giving each other up and whatnot, So, yes, but my point is, should it happen in our lifetime? Is that not what we're waiting for?
It doesn't mean we're going to smile seeing it.
It doesn't mean would have to smile.
And to be fair with you, what you've just described,
and it doesn't mean we have to. And it doesn't mean we have to go quietly into the good night, right? By that I mean, if something comes at your door, fight it with all your might. Push it. Stand up for what is right in as far as you can. So it doesn't mean, oh yeah, that's going to happen anyway, let them walk all over us. No. In as far as you can, according to the words of the Bible, you stand up, you stand your ground, you push back, utilize all the laws of Rome, utilize all the laws of Rome to your advantage. Because that's what Paul did. Paul was a Roman citizen, he knew it, he knew the law, and he used the law to his advantage.
Absolutely.
Says, I'm a Roman citizen, you can't try me here. I want to go to so-and-so. Oh, I'm a Roman citizen, you just can't say that without, no, I want to. He knew his rights, he utilized them. We can do all of that, but I think ultimately we need to understand that descent will happen. And yeah, I guess then all that to say, I agree with you. It is the glimpses, it is the snippets. It's almost like the bird. You can see how it's going to descend to that depths of level with little experiences like this. Yeah. But then also, slightly adjacent, but to the same vein. Do you not also think that with social media, it enables, because it's usually the stories that cause the most uproar that gain attention. Because there could be tens of thousands of students in universities right now making cases using the Bible, and there's no issues. In fact, my wife, during her social work course, she actually quoted the verse, the Bible in her dissertation.
It has to be. It depends on how controversial or how offensive.
So it was in terms of raise up. Don't spare the road from your child. Because obviously there's gentle parent. You can't smack a child or whatever. They wanted to publish her work.
Oh, okay, fine. I was about to say that's why she didn't get a distinction.
No. I mean,
they wanted to publish her work. Did they publish it?
I don't know whatever happened. I don't think so.
Because of that.
you find a reason. No, but so the point I'm making is that it is. I don't doubt there are a lot of students right now across universities who use the Bible to quote verses, make arguments, and whatnot.
Who we want to talk to right now.
And they get their grades, they're fine. But then it's just this one thing happens, causes uproar, gets media attention, and then before you know, it's like, oh, look where this world is going. And again, I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just saying I think we have to be mindful that sometimes these things are not representative of the whole. Sometimes it could usually be the outlier, the exception could be the thing that's caused outrage.
In wrapping up then this week's episode, we have 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds going to universities, burning with the Holy Spirit. We were the same, actually. By the time we were going to uni and stuff like that, we were fully blown, burning for Christ and things like that. what advice are we giving them? Are we saying, yes, live your Christian truth even in your work, even in your writing,
100%.
even challenge things?
100%.
Or are we saying don't? Because are you clarifying 100%. That your issue with this particular students is just in the way she phrased it and not in what she was saying?
Yes. Yeah.
So don't call people demons. Don't.
No. So I mean, because the thing is with academic work, especially academic work, the point is to write as if you're an observer. So the point, you can insert your own observations and conclusions and the way you understand things, but the point is to not come across as if you're taking sides.
Are you not supposed to take a side in a conclusion?
But yes, but even the way you do that is in a way that you're meant to because academics are meant to
so even
remain
though Jesus
removed.
called people foxes, you can't say this is a lie in your writing.
Well, how are you going to prove it's a lie? That's an opinion.
No, is it an opinion if you're using the Bible as your basis?
Because the Bible is just one source. In the same way, someone.
So are you going to get marked down for that opinion?
In the same way, someone can quote one scientific book or one psychology book to say one thing. I can quote another one to say a contradictory thing. So,
but then both of those things would not be opinion. Both of those things would be your writings based on or with those references. Is the Bible an acceptable reference?
It's a published book, so it's an acceptable reference.
Yeah, so we can't use the Bible as reference then.
That's why I say that in academia, you avoid emotional language. You avoid certain...
I don't know where to stand with Chin. Emotions
Listen to what I'm saying.
Emotions are not good.
Life is not 2D. Life is 3D. So
at this moment, you're thinking in 5D.
Some things that are okay in one season could not be okay in another season. Emotions at a funeral, great. You need that.
No, you don't.
Emotions in the boardroom, get them out of here. It's about the bottom line, right? So it's different. So what I'm saying.
Why do you need emotions at a funeral? Why is that great? So how do you need that?
So what I'm saying is now. So what I'm saying is when it comes to academia writing, you want to stay away from certain languages and words, and especially things that come from an emotion, because the whole point of academia is to remove yourself, view both sides with equal weight, and then come to a judgment after that. If you're already coming from a point that this is a lie, this is demonic, this is whatever, and that comes across in your writing, that's an issue. You can hold those views, and this is the thing about academia. You can hold those views, you can believe that, but then in the way you present your writing, it has to come across in a balanced, considered way, in a way that shows that you've thought about everything equally, the demonic and the whatnot, you've thought it equally, and the evidence you lay out logically leads you to the conclusion that, therefore, this way seems more beneficial for society than this way. And that's the conclusion she could have reached. Therefore, based on blah, 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 evidence shows that it would be more beneficial for society if we conclude that there are only two genders instead of this narrative that we have that there are multiple genders.
Instead of this lie.
But you see, and that's the only point I was making, to say that when it comes to academia, the rules are different. It's not a speech, it's not a conversation, it's not a debate in the same way that we have, in-person debates. It's the rules are different. And that's what I'm saying. Academia writing, the rules are different, and we have to play by those rules. Otherwise, you get marked down. Having said that, the marker was definitely hurt.
It was triggered.
The marker was definitely triggered. Yeah, 100%.
Well, there you have it. That was our discussion at Offbeat POV for this week. So going back to the first one, we discussed the movement of Christians in London, in UK. It seems like there's a rise in interest in Christianity. And we were looking at, should we as Christians be finding ourselves at these places, these gatherings? Chin made a very, very good point to say that at the very least, it will open your eyes to all those that are potentially called to God, that it's not a religion for one race or one people, but it is according to what God is putting together, which I thought was very, very, very good point. And then we've just finished off with the second conversation dealing with the student in Oklahoma who challenged the diverse genders narrative in her writings. Sheen has pointed out that perhaps she could have been a bit more professional, but still expressed her beliefs. And definitely, we've both agreed that the marker was definitely triggered, hurt, and she did not deserve a 0. We're using that conversation to think a little bit wider and bigger. Is this where we're going now? Is this where we're heading? Are we going to start getting in trouble for preaching from the good book? We know people got arrested for praying silently. We know that nowadays you can get arrested for preaching in the streets as well, because people are triggered by what you're saying. So yeah, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that we are heading to a place where we might actually get banned from opening the book, and because it's offending people altogether. But as always, that's what we think here at Offbeat POV. Let us know your thoughts so that we can continue this conversation even off air. But most importantly, so that these conversations can reach more and more and more and more and more people. That's it for today. Join us again next week. And remember, the world is busy dancing to its tune, and we ought to be offbeat.